How could a car that looks so good be so terrible? When you think of Audi in the 90s, you probably think of an E36 BMW or Mercedes-Benz S-Class. There was little reason to shop a new Audi at this point in time. While their offerings were okay, they're nothing memorable. But in 1995, Audi released a futuristic concept that was a far cry from their current-day brand styling. This concept had quattro all-wheel drive, a manual transmission, and styling that screamed future icon. Think Porsche 911 or Volkswagen Beetle, but much more stylish. When production began in 1999, the TT remained relatively unchanged from its concept. It seemed Audi had a huge hit. This drop top had the looks to one day become as coveted as America's most iconic roadster, the Shelby Cobra. Carroll's timeless creation has made the original Cobras highly sought after. While the Cobra is often replicated, there are very few Shelby official licensed cars on the road. Superformance is a replica car builder officially licensed by Shelby to make this continuation Cobra 427. Its incredible materials, build quality, and finishings make it the best modern-day Cobra available, and Omaze is offering you the chance to win one, plus $20,000 cash when you visit omaze.com/samcobra. This lightweight roadster has a Shelby aluminum block V8 with 550 horsepower, which will make for a visceral Cobra experience. If you ordered one of these from Superformance, it would cost around $150,000, but you can enter for your chance to win one plus $20,000 cash when you visit omaze.com/samcobra or just click the link in the description box. While you're on Omaze's site, you'll have the opportunity to donate to Team Impact, an incredible nonprofit who betters the lives of children with chronic illness by partnering them with college athletic teams. That's omaze.com/samcobra. I've got to give a huge thanks to Omaze for providing this opportunity to my audience and for also sponsoring this video. Like a cake without sugar, Audi completely left out the main ingredient of a great sports car, and that's the drive. Driving a TT feels like eating a cake without its sugar and a little extra salt. I can confidently say this since I've logged several thousand miles in this exact car. It's my dad's and he owned it since it was new. I used to love this car. I thought it was the best thing ever, but as time went on and my perspective changed, it became very clear. The Audi TT is a sports car for someone who has never experienced a real sports car. Now, my dad's TT is the first and only sports car that had any sort of experience with the first few years I was driving, so naturally I loved it, especially considering I was learning how to drive on my mom's minivan. The TT left such a lasting impression on me that I bought my very own Quattro 225 horsepower coupe model several years after my dad got this, several years into me driving. It was cheap, it was broken, had a cooling system issue, and I lucked out. I had no clue what I was doing. It turned out it just needed a thermostat and a radiator fan, about $100 worth of parts. And after repairing my Audi TT and daily driving it for about 4 or 5 months, made me realize how bored I was with this platform. Probably because at this point I had been able to drive a few of my friends' cars. Most memorable were Mustang GT and an Acura RSX Type S. Those aren't real sports cars, and they drive much sportier than this does right here. And now, being lucky enough to drive and have owned quite a few sports cars, I realize how terrible of a sports car is. I'd even go as far to say that the first generation Audi TT is the worst sports car of its generation. And I know the TT guys are gonna hate me for saying it, but let me tell you why I think this car is so terrible. First off, the 180 horsepower model, it is slow. 225 horsepower for the most part cures that, but it doesn't do anything else for the chassis of this car. Now, the steering is very numb. There's a complete lack of road feel, and when you take a quick turn, there's a substantial amount of body roll, which is especially strange considering this car doesn't weigh all that much. It's no more exciting to drive than a 1.8T powered Jetta or Golf of the same era. And it leads me to believe that Audi really designed this beautiful body and beautiful interior and just threw it right over the chassis of a Golf. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the Jetta and Golf of that era. I think they're great cars, and I think they were incredible alternatives to like the Toyota Corolla, but that's just what they were. They were fun economy cars, and they started off around $17,000 or $18,000. This TT as option when it was new was about $39,000. For $39,000, you could have bought a Honda S2000, a BMW Z3, for a few $1,000 more, a Porsche Boxster, a Nissan 350Z, and my favorite of the bunch was a C5 Chevrolet Corvette. Now, while none of those cars look as good as the Audi TT, they all perform substantially better. The one thing that can save kind of boring car is the fact that it has a manual transmission, and that's all that was offered the first few years that the TT was produced. And this manual, well, it is a manual, but It's not super exciting to drive. It's mushy in some areas, really firm in others, and just overall very notchy. Now for the TT lovers out there that completely disagree with me and think that this is a great sports car, I can understand where you're coming from, but don't just listen to me, listen to the market. They have spoken, and you can buy a used first generation TT for next to nothing. I've seen them as cheap as $2,000 all the way up to $4,000 or $5,000 for really clean examples. Try and buy yourself a clean example C5 Corvette or Honda S2000 for that sort of money. You simply can't. It's clear that Audi focused all their efforts on the looks of this car and none of it on the substance of it. The fact that you can get such a great looking car for such a little amount of money might make this an interesting value proposition, but I would warn that this is more of a value trap, especially the Roadster models, which have so many failure points in the convertible top system. They'll cost you a ton of money at the dealership to fix, and if you decide to tackle them on your own, well, they're just those really annoying jobs. Right now in this car, it's experiencing two different convertible top failures. First one is that the wind deflector is stuck halfway up. That's because there's plastic track that it goes up and down in between, and they disintegrate over time. Again, it requires you to remove everything behind the rear seats to get to replace, and then the convertible top itself is sensing, since that wind deflector is part of the way up, it won't close all the way. So currently this 26,000 mile example is a permanent Roadster. It does look better that way. Audi became well aware of the shortcomings of the first generation TT, so before they phased it out, they souped it up and they gave us the TT S-Line. Now it looks almost identical to any other TT on the road, but it is quite a bit different. And just as soon as it was released, it was pretty much denounced by anyone in the car world with an opinion. You see, this car's paper stats were much too little, too late. They ditched the light 4-cylinder turbo for a heavier, naturally aspirated 6-cylinder that produces only 25 more horsepower for a total of 250. They also eliminated the manual transmission for one gearbox option here in the United States, and that's Audi's DSG, otherwise known as the direct shift gearbox. Now, if you just took a quick glance at it, you'd assume it's any other automatic, and I think that's what everybody thought it was initially, just an automatic, what people were calling Tiptronic in the early 2000s. But this is a true dual clutch, the first generation, really the first put into any consumer car, and it's really decent. Much better, in my opinion, than the 5 or 6 speeds that you get in the base TT. Audi's attempt to make the TT great with this S-Line model was pretty much a failure. The general TT buyer wanted nothing to do with this car. They came in demanding the 1.8 liter turbo model. They wanted nothing to do with a less fuel efficient, heavier V6 that only had 25 more horsepower. This car was very limited in its production because there was really no demand for it, unless you knew what this was. You see, that drivetrain was pulled directly out of a Volkswagen Golf. And I know I said that earlier as a criticism, but this wasn't just pulled out of any Volkswagen Golf, it was pulled out of the best Volkswagen Golf, the Golf R32. By lending it the soul out of an R32, the TT was finally worthy of being called a sports car. A comparable R32 would sell for easily over $10,000, but I snagged this rare R32 TT for just $3 grand. Mind you, it was sold as a non-runner at the inoperable auction sale. When it arrived, it started right up and drove no problem off the car carrier. Although I heard some strange grinding noises, and the transporter told me it had very soft brakes. Now, I bought this car because I thought it'd be fun to try and relive my teenage years, but with all of these issues, I'm just hoping I didn't pick the wrong example. So just in this few feet I've driven it, besides that rough engine vibration, the brakes are really, really weak. You slam your foot on the brake, and you really got to push it in all the way to get it to stop, and it smells a little bit. See, I got my foot all the way on the brake. There's so much better light over here. You can see exactly what the problem is, why all that vibration is making its way into the cabin. But to make it even clearer and easier for you to see and easier for me to work on, I want to remove some of these brackets, some of these reservoirs here, move them out of the way. It's going to give us direct access to tackle that motor mount issue. My toolkit today, so I've got total inappropriate tool usage. This extension's quite a bit long, but it's getting the job done. I actually almost have the bad mount all the way out. Let's see if I can get one more here. And here is what looks like our original motor mount. It's got the Audi stamp on the top, and you see how much movement is in the bushing there. That's a problem. Definitely this has failed, and what happened is every time somebody steps on the gas, it sends all of that stress through our mount here, and with it being collapsed, the bolts that were sitting on top here, over time they got worn and worn and worn and just snapped out of place. With our old worn motor mount out of the way, before we even get the party started on our stuck bolts, which are now stuck studs, I'm gonna shoot a little bit of penetrating oil down in there to hopefully make our job easier. I just kind of want to show you the overall condition of this TT and talk about some of the auction sale details. Remember, we paid $3,000 for this. It is an S-Line VR6 model, and I would tell you that is a bit of an anomaly, even considering this car is slightly below average in condition. First of all, these models, like I said earlier, are very rare to come across. When I look in my local classifieds, I see a ton of 1.8 liter turbo models, some quattro, some not. And like I said, you can find a rougher condition one for starting at around $2,000, but to find a VR6 model, especially one in decent shape, well, they're going to start usually at $6,000 or $7,000, and in really good shape, they're going to eclipse 10. Now, remember, this car does fire right up. It's got 113,000 miles, so not terrible if the car was maintained, but seeing as that someone likely drove around until the motor mount completely snapped out of place, I'm guessing this car wasn't really regularly maintained, and that's top on my priority list. Besides fixing that broken motor mount, we want to get everything to fully service this car. It's got quite a few fluids in it, especially because it has a Haldex all-wheel drive system, so there's a fluid there. It's got the DSG transmission. That's really important to service every 30 to 40,000 miles, and then typical stuff like our oil, our coolant, power steering, and all that stuff. Now, if you can see right now above me, the headliner is sagging a bit. That's one of the condition issues in the interior itself. But besides that, this thing just needs a really good cleaning. I've seen a lot of TTs with some of these plastic knobs crack over time. I don't really see anything in here. A lot of that stuff looks like it's been replaced. I think it's probably just mainly the last owner of this car that drove it until they had that motor mount issue. And if I had to guess, even though it wasn't marked as a repossession, I'm going to guess that it was a repossession. Number one, because it was owned by a bank, and number two, because of this key. And also because of this key, I believe the car sold so cheap. Hear me out. When these cars came out, a lot of you guys are familiar with the Volkswagen flip blade style keys, right? Well, this car didn't come with one of those. It just came with this right here. This is an aftermarket third-party key. You could see the name and the logo right there. Doesn't say Audi on it. And this looks to me like a locksmith key. A lot of times at auctions, when a car won't start, but there is some value to be had out of the car, what will happen is the bank will call a locksmith and send them to the auction to try and get them to start it up if it didn't come with the key. Remember, I said I think it's a repo. I think they went and just towed this car out and it didn't have the keys. The owner never gave the keys up, so the locksmith came, generated this key, but the auction still couldn't get it to turn over. Now, before this car came to me, I sent it over to my friends at Mancuso Collision and Custom. There's a great guy named Billy there. He's an ex-Audi tech, and he said that this key would not start the car. Initially, it was a crank, no start, but after just flipping this a few times in the ignition, he said that this key now synchronized with the car. He said there should be an immobilizer chip inside of here, even though it is an aftermarket one, and the car started right up. Now, sometimes you get lucky like that. You buy a car that's marked as a non-runner, and it runs right out of the box. Even though we've got our check engine light on, a lack of brakes, and obviously some funny noises and vibrations when we move the car, overall, the engine itself sounds really healthy. The car goes into gear and drives forward and back. It even shifted into second gear as I was just moving it out there in the field. So overall, we definitely have a bit of work to get to, but this looks like a perfect project fixer-upper. Now, besides the major difference in drivetrains between a TTS line and a regular turbo TT, there are very few little cosmetic differences to kind of tell the difference. If you see one of these out on the road, I want to pull the silver TT up and show you those now. The main aesthetic differences between the two cars are going to be found in the rear end, where it's obvious that the S-Line has the dual exhaust versus the single exhaust in the front wheel drive version. Also, if you get close enough, you can see that only on the S-Line you got this honeycomb style rear valance, as well as a substantially larger rear spoiler. The only other aesthetic change in the front are these little fins in the front corner of the bumper. You don't get those on the regular TTs. Now, if you've made it this far into the video, past all my harsh criticisms of the first generation TT, something tells me you still might be intrigued by the idea of your very own cheap Audi TT, and it's actually a pretty fantastic idea, especially if you're young, you're on a budget, you're looking for your first project car. It's really tough to match the amount of value you can get in an Audi TT, specifically if you buy a coupe model. Even if you get the 4-cylinder, there's a lot of different upgrades you can perform to these cars. And remember, they're just Volkswagen Golfs, which means that the parts are really inexpensive. And since the platform's been around well over a decade, every single common issue has been figured out at this point. If you're lucky enough to land on the more powerful S-Line model, I would tell you it's definitely worth the slight price premium. And as you see, we've got the hood open on this car. It is far from perfect, but everything that I've found to be broken thus far and expect to be broken, just kind of knowing this platform, again, shouldn't cost too much. But my main goal with this car is not just to repair it. Audi made the TT great with this car, but I want to take it, modify it a bit, give it that road feel that it really lacks, and make it great again. And if that idea excites you as much as it does me, be sure to hit that like button. Also, if you're not already following me on Instagram, where I've been posting pictures of the Audi TT, the modifications I plan to do to it, and all the updates on the car before anything goes live here on YouTube, well, just visit me right here. Click the link down in the description box. And as always, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching today, and I'll catch you very soon.